Welcome to the Dialogue Project podcasts.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
As often as I can, I rehearse what I'm going to say first.
Right, so grab a seat, doesn't matter which one you sit in.
Okay.
Hello. 10. Spontaneous.
So, how we start this is by you saying your name
Over
and then counting to 10.
I don't go, extreme with anyone, no.
Yeah.
But they just feel that I care.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Because I do.
I don't regret it.
Should I say my name first?
Yes, please.
Okay. 1.
You go to space, you look at the Earth and you cry.
If we didn't ask questions, then we wouldn't go on.
To change your personal options,
Listen to me.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
I find I'm saying things that I feel are quite magical, really.
It was a very beautiful thing because he let me wash his hair.
1.
My name is Carl James, and this is a podcast that features my first ever programme on Radio 4, BBC Radio 4, here in the UK. The programme's called A Different Kind of Justice, and it features Ian and Margaret, whose relationship started when Ian burgled Margaret's house. The show is the story, really, of their relationship. And I won't go into any detail here. It's all in the programme. We've had a huge amount of interest in the show. It's had some great feedback, and thank you if you've already listened to it. If you haven't listened to it, then I do hope you enjoy it. I want to thank Russell Finch, my brilliant producer at Something Else. I'd also like to thank Tony Phillips and Jane Ellison at the BBC for their patience and their encouragement. There are, as you'll hear, a number of different elements to the story. For me, deep in the heart of this story, though, are some very human qualities. Forgiveness, empathy, and the courage to change, I think, are the things that resonate with me and that seem to have resonated with other people. So I just wanted to make sure you could listen to the show if you missed it, or indeed if you want to listen to it again, now that it's no longer on the BBC iPlayer. It's 30 minutes long, so get a cup of tea, get a cup of coffee, do whatever you want to do, and have a listen to A Different Kind of Justice. I make a living out of helping people to talk to each other and listen to each other when the stakes are high. So naturally I'm really curious about conversation. And right now the government are experimenting with something called restorative justice, which is all about helping people to create a turning point in their lives just by sitting down and talking with each other. So the reason I'm here in Blackburn on a cold, windy, wintry morning is to find out more from two people who know what it takes to have that kind of conversation from the inside. Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
My name is Margaret Foxley. Do you want anything else? Sorry. One night in November 2008, I came home a little bit earlier from school. I can remember now driving up the drive and pulling into the back, went in through the back door and was immediately met with this real sort of cold air. And I just thought, oh no, the heating's broken down or something. It just felt very, very cold.
Ian, Carl,
Right,
really nice to meet you. How are you?
All right, right as well, yeah.
Nice.
Should I have seen you last time?
Went into the kitchen and on the floor was a handbag of mine and all the contents was spread across the floor and I just thought, this is peculiar.
Because it was an house that backed off onto a road, backed quite a way off the road, with quite a big driveway full of trees and everything. It seemed like an easy kind of thing where burglary where I knew I wouldn't be disturbed. I made quite a lot of damage to the front door, break the front door, because it was a full glass front door, with the wrought iron work on the front. And I remember breaking that. And obviously, I just had a look around the house, kind of valuables and stuff like that.
And I just wondered if Jessica had been into the house that day and was looking for something. I didn't think for a minute that it could be anything else.
I was in the front upstairs bedroom, and I could see this guy walking up the driveway. I run down the open plan staircase, and I kind of twisted my foot, my ankle, because I wanted to get out into the grounds rather than whoever it was see the front door, glass all over the front door.
As I got into the hall, somebody was leaving the front door. I just saw the back of this black, somebody in black clothes disappearing into the night.
I kind of hobbled down the drive onto the main road and then over this dry stone wall on the main road, down a field, through a park, and in that way.
There was glass all over the floor. It was clear that the front door had been smashed, and it suddenly dawned on me that I'd walked into somebody who was in the house who had broken in.
And had you lost much stuff in the burglary?
We'd lost, not particularly, an amount of things, but we'd lost some very, very important things to us.
I wasn't going to take a big TV or anything like that. Small laptop in a bag and a camera. I think that's all I really took.
Which contained loads of photographs. My 50th birthday, our 25th wedding anniversary, Jessica's 18th, which we hadn't backed up. Busy lives, and we hadn't done,
Like most people.
Yeah. So that had gone, and that was really, really important to us.
I got involved in taking heroin. What it was, a girl introduced me to it. I had a flat then, and she said, have any foil? I said, foil? What do you want foil for? Tin foil. She said, a bit of gear. And I thought, I couldn't work it out what she was trying to say. She said, a bit of heroin. I thought, I don't want none of that, injections. I don't want none of that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Were you streetwise? Did you know what heroin meant?
I thought I was. So I said, no, I don't really want any of that, you know what I mean? Don't do injections, stuff like that, but it's a serious thing, you know what I mean? And she said, no, you're smoking on foil, you don't have to inject it. So obviously I tried it with her. My life went downhill ever since.
I got a phone call from the police saying that they'd found the man who'd burgled the house, and he'd been in the back of a police car and they'd gone round to all the places where he'd actually done a burglary job.
And I happened to mention that one, because I just want to get it over with.
But he also finished that with, would you please tell this family that I didn't mean them any harm and I wish them a happy Christmas. Now, I told this to the family. We gathered that night for a Christmas meal, and Jessica was at the table. And when I said that he wished us a happy Christmas, Jessica just immediately said, oh, bless him, isn't that sweet? And we just looked at her and said, are you crazy? He's taken these things from us, and, he's going to be locked up now, and that's the best place for him. And she immediately said, well, how do you know that's the best place for him? What do you know about him? But I didn't want to know. He was going to be put away, and that was it. I'd drawn a line underneath it, and that was finished. So then we moved into spring and into summer, and in the July we went to a wonderful family wedding. Jessica and her boyfriend Tom were there. Both looked absolutely fantastic. Jessica was radiant. Her and Tom called a friend who was working and had just finished work and asked him if he could come and collect them to take them home quickly to get changed for... They were going on to a nightclub in the evening, and they bobbed off. We didn't know this because they were just slipping away from the wedding celebrations, getting changed and coming back. But what happened, they went with this friend. There'd been an oil spillage on the road from a combine harvester that day. The car went out of control and all three of them were killed instantly. Just destruction, big scale. To lose your daughter at 21 and her boyfriend and a friend, and it was just the beginning of a chapter that you just never envisage will start, and you never think will end either.
And can I ask, at the time, I mean, it seems so absurd to relate, the loss of a daughter to the loss of a few possessions, but of course there was a connection for you, wasn't there? Because those pictures of Jessica that you lost, which would be heartbreaking for any parent listening. That would go, I've lost the pictures of my kid as they were growing up and graduating and all that stuff. But of course, that must have just made it doubly awful.
It was massive.
When did you realise that? Was it very quickly after?
It was really quickly because press, media wanted pictures of the family together. They wanted pictures of Jessica, all sorts of things. And suddenly we couldn't find a picture of the four of us, which was devastating. And then you become really angry and you think, this is just horrendous, and it was bad enough having those things taken then. But now, we can't even draw on those. We can't even have those as sort of comfort and go to them. I was a musician. I used to love singing. I went to a choir with my husband, and it was a big part of our lives. But as soon as she died, I couldn't open my mouth to sing. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't listen, certainly, to any of her music. So there was a huge gap, and I knew that if I wasn't careful, I was going to lose everything that was very special about my daughter, Jessica, and everything that I loved and enjoyed before she died. A couple of days after the funeral, my husband went back to work and he received a phone call from the police. They explained the principles of restorative justice to him and said that they would like to meet with us because they were working in prison with the offender who had burgled our house.
This is just a few days after.
This was a few days after.
You'd buried Jessica.
Yeah. And because they were police from a different area, they weren't aware of what had just happened. But there was just something in me that felt, I've got to find out a bit more about this.
And was that a rational decision when you said there was just something in me?
No.
That wasn't to do with what Jessica said to you? Or
it was something from Jessica. I felt, I can't say that I heard her speaking to me. I just felt, well, I can't just turn the corner on this. I can't just block it out. I've got to find out a little bit more. So I said, yeah, I was prepared to do it. I'd never been in a prison before, so they said, well, we need to do it fairly soon. So we did it the next day. He was brought into the room and he shuffled into the room. He just shuffled across the floor and was invited to take a seat opposite me. And he looked at the floor and he just kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Now, he didn't know anything about my circumstances. So all he knew was that he'd burgled my house. And so for the first 10 minutes, it was a disaster, and I just thought, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be a total waste of time. And that made me angry because I thought, no, I've gone through all this. I've got myself here. I'm not going to give up now. And you can't really remember much about it.
I don't remember specific things. I know she'll probably say to you that, it was if I was kind of reading from a script, but I didn't know what to expect. I just presumed a kind of victim awareness course, kind of sit and listen.
I said, I don't want to hear you saying you're sorry. I said, that's not what I've come for. Oh, well, what have you come for? I said, no, I want to hear from you. I said, I'm going to ask you some questions. So I then got really quite angry with him and asked him, I want to know why you chose my house on that day. And just let me tell you, how you made me feel. You can't sleep at night. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what you were doing in my house. I didn't know if you were going to come back again. And that released so much in me, so much sort of aggravation and tension. And he did start to listen.
She was asking questions, she wanted answers, which was fair enough. She was annoyed. I mean, anybody would be, wouldn't they?
I asked him if he could remember what he'd stolen from my house. And he did remember the laptop. He said, I think there was a camera and I stole a laptop. And I said, yeah, you stole the laptop. So how much did you get for it? He said, I can't remember. I said, no, you will remember. I want to know. And he was really vague. I said, give or take a few pounds, I want to know. And he said it'd be about £35. I said, right. And that's when I got really, I laid into him. I said, so for £35, I said, let me tell you what that £35 means to me. I cannot replace, no matter how hard I work, I can't replace those memories. I told him then about the laptop, why it meant so much to me, and that I just buried my daughter, and you just saw him, well. Because I don't know if you know, my daughter, 21-year-old daughter, was killed 3 weeks ago. I could see his body just went in. But it's not just a laptop for 50 quid.
I mean, I wasn't to know that. But she said, prior to that, my daughter would have forgiven you, and that's why I'm going to forgive you, in a sense.
Well, he just sank and he cried. And obviously by this time I was upset, I was angry. So it was a very emotional sort of 10 minutes.
It felt like a whack in the stomach, it did. Yeah, it did. I didn't realise that, this woman who's outside burgled, she'd been through all this problem, and I just made the situation worse. To my own selfishness, being a drug user and thinking you can break into people's property when you can't. It was such a shock, it really was.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it's a hell of a thing to be burdened with, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it is.
You'd done wrong, right? You'd burgled a house. But to suddenly have the death of a daughter, and the photographs of Jessica were on that laptop, weren't they?
Yeah, I didn't know that, you see, obviously.
How were you to know?
Yeah.
That must have been a hell of a thing for you to bear.
It was.
Had you ever had anything like that before? Well, how did you deal with that?
I don't know. It was. I kind of went into because I was working full time as a cleaner on a psychiatric unit as well.
In the prison.
In the prison, yeah. So it kind of like having to deal with the daily work as well as thinking about everything I'd gone through. You know what I mean? It was hard. It was really hard.
You had a son as well, though, didn't you?
Yeah. I had a son from a previous relationship who took his own life. Yeah.
I suppose the only reason I bring it up is that it's impossible you can understand
what Margaret's had gone through. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So in a way, I mean, in a terrible way, but you were able to empathise a little bit.
Exactly, yeah.
We talked, and he held my hand and I held his, and I then said that I wasn't leaving until I had some kind of commitment from him. I said...
Commitment
I said I needed to leave knowing that he was going to have some kind of focus and target to work towards. And that I had to have made things a little bit different for him. I said, because, doing what I've done today was very, very difficult.
And had that come from you, or had someone suggested you say that?
No, it came from me.
You needed something to change for it to be valuable.
Absolutely. That was basically what I said to him. I need you to prove to me that you're going to change.
Just sort your life out, once and for all. So I felt like I had to do it. I wanted to do it as well, but I felt like, this is it now. It's as simple as that. You can't, I would never let her down, never.
So the progress that you've made...
Yeah.
And you have made progress, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, have you been back to prison since then?
No.
So you've been out of prison for how long now?
2 years.
Is that the longest you've done for a while?
The longest I've ever done, yeah. I could never go back to prison. I wouldn't want to anyway, but I couldn't cope with it if I went back again. It's just all strange when I think about it now, the like being locked up, and I couldn't do it now. I enjoy my freedom now.
Yeah.
I'm glad to wake up every morning knowing that I don't take drugs. And everything's all right.
When I left home this morning, I said to my 2 boys that I'm going to meet a burglar today. And it doesn't feel like I met a burglar. It felt like I was talking to a man who'd had a really tough start in life, who'd taken some seriously wrong turns, and had ended up in a kind of epic situation that nobody could have predicted. And there's a bit of me that feels it's not fair on him to have to bear this huge burden of the loss of a child, which is a loss that he really understands. But of course it's not fair on Margaret either. She's lost her daughter. And so they're both in the middle of a huge process of coming to terms with what's happened in their lives. One thing I do know is that this isn't just a regular restorative justice process. This has become something much bigger than that for both of them. Their lives are entwined in a way that neither of them had expected them to be. For the first time, it's the 3 of us here together. The question I want to ask both of you, and Margaret, maybe I'll ask you first, is who is Ian to you now? Who is he in your life?
Ian doesn't know this, but there isn't a day goes by when I wake up and I just hope that he's not gone back to his old ways and that everything's okay. And I think about him every single day. And it's the first thing I think about when I get up in the morning. Hope Ian's okay. I hope he's not, sort of gone back on things. Ian, to me, is an incredibly strong person who has terrific determination. and I admire him so much. And he's my reason for carrying on. He's given me focus.
So I'd like to hear that. I think I might find that quite hard to hear that said about me. What's that like for you?
Yeah. I'll always remember Margaret for the things I put her through being selfish. And, I have a duty to sort myself out, and I have done. And I always will. I'll never end up back in that situation again.
And what about Margaret? Who is she to you? Is she a friend? Is she a helper? Honestly, now.
She's a friend to me. I could always speak to her if I had any problems. She's told me that. But also, she'll always be a kind of reminder, kind of what I did to her. Whereas I kind of kick up the backside, if you will. It's what I needed all my life. So you just have to live and learn, don't you, really? Some learn quicker than others, some don't.
That's a lot of pressure on this man here, isn't it? You must be conscious of that.
I put the pressure on him right from the start when we met in prison. I said, basically, you were so sorry and you were so determined to give me something back.
Exactly, yeah.
And yes, it was. And I was conscious of the fact that I'd left you suddenly with a huge job to do. But you're doing it.
Sorry, Margaret.
That's all right. Have you seen photographs of Jessica?
I haven't, no.
That's Jessica on the windowsill.
Oh, right.
Is that her?
Yep.
Is that the first time you've seen a photograph?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh.
She's a beautiful girl.
She is.
So what am I left with? Apart from a real sense of privilege of having met two people with rather extraordinary lives. I worry that Ian has an almost unbearable weight on his shoulders. I worry a bit that Margaret is putting a huge amount of faith in Ian. And I suppose my hope for them is that they keep having conversations, that they keep talking, because it feels like if they can keep talking to each other, then he can build on his success so far and she can come to terms with what must be an incredible loss for her. So restorative justice is more than one conversation. It's not an end in itself, but it is a beginning. One last quick question. I don't know if you remember, Margaret, when we spoke, we talked a bit about music.
Yeah.
Has music come back into your life yet?
It's a really good question. I can't sing still because I know I'm not quite strong enough, but I can listen to some music.
What are you listening to?
I'm listening to the Messiah at the moment because that's what I always sang with the choir at Christmas, and I'm actually managing to listen to it.
You ever heard Handel's Messiah, Ian?
I've heard of the title, obviously. I've never heard of the music. Yeah.
I'll introduce you to it, Ian.
Yeah, well done.
listen, both of you, thank you very, very much. Ian, it is an absolute privilege to meet you.
No problem.
And it's a huge privilege to meet you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was the programme that was broadcast first on the BBC, BBC Radio 4, and my huge thanks to them. It was a very enjoyable project to work on, and very rewarding, not least because of the feedback that we had subsequently. If you've enjoyed that, please do listen to any of the other shows that are on the podcast. There's a variety of themes, some racier than others, so do have a look at the descriptions first. But please, yes, enjoy any of the podcasts that are on this iTunes feed. And once again, thanks for listening.